Morning, I'll call the meeting to order. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 1 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. I'll introduce the panel members first. I'm Marcel Lorando. I'll be chairing today. Carrie Linkletter to my left and Ron Merritt to my far left. The assessor today will be Matthew Baracus, and the administrative assistant today will be Michelle Napin. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit the discussions to those matters. The statements that applicants or the assessor make at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessment of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by council and is independent of it and the city administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decision with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to applications of exemption from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave and the process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applicants have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the order by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. Please have your cell phones on silent. I'll ask you to swear in the city and the fellow, please.
Can you state your full name, please? Do you swear that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yep. Will it be sworn in or affirmed?
Swearing.
Sworn? Can you state your full name, please? Do you swear that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Matthew, on to you. I see that you're requesting a 53-3.
Yeah, for the non-co-op. Sent out mailers twice, second time by registered mail. On page 7, you've got the Canada Post envelope, registered, sent out. And then on page 8, you've got the tracking details. It was sent out, and no one was there when it was to be dropped off. And so what happened was a note was left, and then the item was returned to the post office, and then from there it was not picked up. But 2 attempts were made to send the letter out. This is something that happens year after year. It's not a surprise or anything. So we're requesting for the non-co-op on this one.
Do you have any questions for Mr. Baracus about this information?
No, because I wasn't already at home. Yes, I was abroad. And I don't have anybody to really take care about my night. But if he wants to proceed, I am okay with this.
You're okay with going
Yes.
first?
Yes.
Okay, in that case, we'll just go with you first. You haven't got any questions, have you, panel members? None?
Well, I'm just wondering about the, why the information, wasn't, it was, you replied to the city in 2013.
That's I wanted to speak in my speech about everything about that. Yeah, because
So, are you aware of, what they're seeking and what penalties are involved?
about the penalty, no.
Well,
What they are seeking for.
maybe our chairperson can explain that to you.
The penalty would be that even if we did give you a reduction, you would not get it this year. You'd have to wait till the following year before you saw any reduction with the penalty. Unless you've got strong reason to believe that you did, why you didn't receive this. But you didn't have any questions. Why don't we hear from you on why you didn't reply back first? I think Ron's on the right track on this one.
I didn't follow this exactly.
If we were to reduce your evaluation
Because I
today,
didn't pick up the documents?
that's correct. You get penalized because he's gonna have you go first and you'll be presenting, and you would then have the burden of proof. You have to prove.
That if, but if I don't agree to be presented today, what does it mean? We postpone the hearing?
No, you're still gonna present. One way or another, you'll present and the city will present. But if you win today, if you did get a reduction, you still wouldn't get that reduction because you hadn't answered this letter and you've said, you haven't given us reason for why you have. Give us the reasons why you didn't respond back.
Well, you know, I have a huge problem with my mom and me. My mom is sick. She's 78 years old, and she broke a hip, and she was in such depression that I have to follow in Poland. I haven't prepared everything, and it's my problem is the same. It's running in the family. I have an osteoporosis, and I, for example, followed 3 weeks ago, and I am in the pain right now because I hit myself. I didn't broke my ribs, but I have such bruises that I can't even bend out. You know, I have a family problem, sickness all the time, and I am living here, and because I am alone, nobody really takes care about my mails.
But do you live at 475 Jefferson Avenue?
Yes, like
Yeah,
I'm not even much there. You see.
But you don't open any of your mail at all? Zero, the bills?
Well, the most of the mails, I have to tell you that they going to the different address. Like yesterday, I received the mail from 147 Oak. And about this mail, when I came, I saw something, but it was too late.
Do you have any questions, Ron? Oh, I'm sorry. Do you have any questions, Mr. Brock? I should ask you first.
I you see, the entire issue about this building is that assessor was in this building in 2010.
But right now, we're having a discussion, not about the building itself.
Okay.
We're having a discussion, you can leave that with him for now. We're having a discussion about why you didn't respond back.
Because I wasn't at home. I'm sorry. But I don't have anybody to take care. And I have another problem with my health, and
And you have no questions, Matthew?
I have no questions.
Ron, do you
I
have?
have no further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Do you have any questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
sometimes I can stay at home alone, and I don't even, I have to stay with other homes.
Well, I guess we will take a minute to review the matter. If we could ask everyone to step out of the room for a minute. But you still received the papers and didn't do anything with them, correct?
I haven't received the papers, like I have, it was everything delayed, it was after the time.
But the city's got the information that they sent it to you.
Yeah, but I wasn't there yet.
But we're still gonna have, we're gonna be ruling with the city on this one. You're gonna have a 53-3, so the penalty will follow with it. But we will hear the case, and you will make your presentation first. So you can start with your presentation.
I have a, if you want to, there is not much papers here, therefore I wasn't.
You already gave one to the city. Are we getting a copy of that
Yeah,
as well?
there is the copy of this, and there is the copy of this.
And you don't have this in, this is just tax papers and stuff?
This is a tax paper.
Okay.
The
Is there
issue
copies
is,
for the file?
Is there copies for the file, or you only got this?
I only got this.
You were asked to bring 5 copies.
She didn't, probably didn't read that either. We'll let you go verbal on it, and we'll, Matthew, can we share with your papers too after you've had an opportunity to see them? With the information she gave you, what did she give you for information?
2010 supplementary assessment notice, municipal board of agreement, dated late July 2012, 2008 tax bill, 2011 property assessment.
It's all before too early, much earlier. than
It's
that.
all,
Old.
yeah.
I'm not recording anything.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go on with your presentation then.
Well, if you look at property tax, if you look on 2008, the building was estimated $99,000. In 2012, in 2010, they jumped from 99,000 to 190,000. I make an appeal, and the process was pretty long. It was lasting till 2012, and in 2012, I have an assessor to this apartment building, and if you see on this note, the price was dropping from 190 to 157. The adjustment of the price was done for 2010, 2011, but they did, even if it was signed in 2012, they didn't make the adjustment for 2012. They jumped the price for 2012 for $310,000. Although she estimated in 2012 $157,000, they jumped the price for $310,000. I didn't did the appeal because the process it was still in 2012. In 2013, I did the appeal, but again, I came late and I missed the correct day for the appeal. 2016, 2015, I did appeal, but I have to leave before the hearing, and the board did not want to move the hearing to another day. And I'm making the hearing the appeal right now, because in the between I broke my right hand. Therefore, in 2015 I wasn't even. 2014 I even didn't think about making an appeal. What I wanted to say that even if the assessor was in the building and he saw the building, he estimated the value of the building, the assess department does not follow this. That doesn't follow the value of the building which was assessed by his assessor. And that time the value of the building was dropped by 17%. And I think that bringing me the value of other buildings to the point that the assessor was there and saw the building and analyzed the income from the building is not really, it's supposed to be. The fact that she was there, she analyzed the building, she takes for consideration income from the building, and she dropped the price of 17%, it has to mean something. That's what I wanted to tell.
Do you have any questions?
No questions.
Ron?
I have a few questions. How many units are there?
There is 8 units there.
8 units? Okay. On the city's brief, they have 6, but I noticed that,
We've got 8.
No, they have 8.
yeah,
They have 8 on theirs.
they have 6 on the front. Okay, so there's a little mistake there.
Didn't carry over on the automatic, I don't know.
Okay. But I see that there's 6 one-bedrooms and there's 2 two-bedrooms, so, I mean, you're here to appeal your assessment,
Yes.
so what do you think the assessed value should be?
I think that it should be because in 2010, the assessor was there, and she dropped the price from 190 to 157, which is around 17%. And because the city did not, the assessed department did not follow this fact, I think that it should be dropped at the same level, 17%.
So that would
Because
give you a figure of what then?
I calculated that 17% is from the 445 is about 75,000. Therefore, will come to 360,000, something like that, if I'm correct.
Okay. So, and how do you arrive at the 350,000?
60,000.
Other than percentage-wise drop?
Well, there is also, you see, in 2010, when she was in the building, the rent was between $360 to $400. Now, we have 2018, the rent is between $650 and $720. The rent even didn't go twice to up, and the value of the building went 3 times. I have even one apartment, $550. The price of the building from 2010 went almost 3 times, 2.5 times, but the rent did not even go 1 time up.
You're on Notre Dame.
Yes,
Where approximately is that? Like, what high, is it towards Kuwaitan?
yeah, do you want to know is the forks between Kuwait and Notre Dame? It's around this area. It's the very rough area that I have a lot of break into because of the use of the drugs. The laundry is the most target point, even if it's token operated, even if it's written on the doors, it's token operating, they are breaking. They break in October and they stole only the artificial flower, and to replace the lock cost me $80 because it's commercial lock automatically sells.
So it consists of 8 suites, and is there 8 parking stalls too?
Yes.
Okay. Any problems renting, you know?
Yeah, I have a problem to choose the people which will not be drug dealer. Even that, I have a problem. I have a woman who moved on February. I review her accreditation, but she brought the son, which I didn't even was aware, and he was selling the drugs.
Who looks after the property? Do you have
Well,
a management company?
No, if I am here, the property is looking, if I am not here, there is the one tenant who is like,
Like a caretaker?
well, half of caretaker, because nobody wants to, nobody wants to deal with the people. Nobody wants to the point that everybody's afraid that if somebody, like if the tenants do something or they bring somebody and they give information to me, their car is the mirror is broken, there is the scratch of the car. Nobody wants to take this function fully because they are afraid what's going to happen to them.
And what sort of, what would your estimate be for the condition of the property?
Well, that's, you see, 2010, she gave the value based on the condition of the property. The condition is not very good. Even if I paid the building in 2011, they come and knock, they damage.
Have you since improved the property from that, from the, when you had the value of 157?
No, not significant, no, it's not
Have you
something.
put any repairs into it or
Yeah,
renovated?
I'm doing the repairs and renovating. If the tenants move out, I have to bring this apartment to, because they leave the apartment in such condition that I will not rent. And there are some things of the market which I am not able to buy anymore because the property is for 55. Therefore, I have to make some adjustment to the new whatever the market offers right now. But I did not make a significant renovation to this building.
All right, I thank you.
Carrie?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I have no questions, thank you.
You've looked at the city's information that they brought, well, he hasn't brought it forward yet, I guess we'll wait till you bring it forward. You said your average rent was $650 to $720, correct?
Yeah, I have one even apartment 550.
But as high as $720.
There is no higher.
Hmm?
There is no higher.
No, no higher than $720. The city's got you at $633 on average, so it's probably a good average. Okay, let's hear from the city and
Okay.
we'll move on.
625 Notre Dame, middle number 1306223, 1000. Pretty much the corner of Notre Dame and Bannatyne Avenue West, out there towards Route 90. 2016 assessment was $450,000 this time, or $445,000, so actually went down a tiny bit. No recent subject sales history. Page 3 is our breakdown. Average monthly rent that was used, $633.39 by the model, with a 58.63% expense ratio at a 5.5 cap. So we get our number of $545,000. Go to page 4. That is the rent comparables. 3 of the 4 rent comparables are on Notre Dame. They bracket, all their rent comparables bracket in terms of effective year built. They're all construction class D. On a gross floor area basis, it's bracketed as well, and as is the monthly rent that we're using, falls right in the middle. The rent comparables, 5 is our cap rate chart, 5.5 cap based on age and area. There is no effective age applied to this property. The actual year built is the effective year built. Didn't have any financial information in regards to this property, so model was used. It's pretty much what it was last time. No adjustment was made. Thank you.
Any questions of the assessor?
Yeah, the first point, how did you take 1.8, like 1.8 expenses? Did you take for consideration the excessive damage by the people under the influence of the drug, they make excessive damage to the apartment buildings? Did you take this for consideration? Because this is the area like that. And I said they even broke to the laundry, which was written token operating laundry. They damaged the front, the door.
Let me stop you there, and I'm not gonna cut into it, but I think he's already answered it by saying he had to use a model because you sent no information in. Unless you send information into the city, they can't look at any other numbers because they have to use a model, because they can't make things up. If you want them to use factual numbers, send in the real information and then they'll be able to use it. So Mark, he's already answered that question prior, so. Any other questions?
No.
Ron, do you have any questions of the
Yeah.
assessor?
Thank you. You get a chance to drive past the property or inspect the property?
Unfortunately, no.
No. So, the cap rate is associated with the age of the property?
Yeah, and the market region is
So, because it's 1955, it falls into the 5.5 cap?
That is correct.
Okay, so when would it go to maybe a 6 cap? At what age does it start there? Do you know offhand?
1945 and earlier.
1945, eh? So you can't tell us whether the property is in excellent shape or poor shape or anything like that?
I don't have any information.
So you can't really tell us whether there's graffiti on the building or anything like that, eh?
That wasn't provided.
Okay, I thank you.
Carrie?
Yes, Mr. Barakas, can you tell us when the last time this property was inspected?
Get the notes from our system, see if I can find some. Well, she mentioned there was a municipal board.
2010.
2010, so, interior inspection, so yeah, 2000, for the 2010 muni board, the note is from July of 2012.
Actually, it was 2012, she was 2012.
Yeah, so that's when it was inspected.
And do you have any notes in terms of the condition of the property?
It says that it's run down, says there's graffiti on the walls, like she's saying. Couple broken windows. All flooring original except for 2 units, as well as kitchen cupboards and plumbing fixtures. So,
Sorry, our original to fix
our
that?
original, yeah.
Okay. So upon reading that, and the claimant has stated that there's been no upgrades, would you still consider this property to be in good condition?
I never said it was in good condition. We don't have any financial information or anything to say that we can do a calculation based on the income approach. She previously stated that her current rents range between,
650 and 720.
we're at 630, 2 years prior to what she just stated, so it looks like the income we're using is accurate.
Okay, I have no further questions, thank you.
And now going to open for other questions. Thank you very much. That'll conclude the matter, and you'll be hearing from us within a short period of time.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, she.
Yeah, she did. Well, done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Susan, you're up. Just need to go on in and.
To be sworn in or sworn? Can you state your full name, please? Susan Spanik. Do you swear that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Mr. Brock's, when you're ready.
Actually,
Nope.
if I may impose upon you, Mr. Chairperson, I'd
Sure you
like to
can,
address
Susan.
something to begin with. And I think it's somewhat of a procedural matter. For all 3 of these properties, the 2018 assessment was appealed. A decision was issued by this board, and that decision was appealed to the municipal board. The property owners received a notice of assessment for 2019, and it's as a result of a new assessment being sent, new notice of assessment being sent out, that this appeal was filed. What the owners are looking for is because the 2019 it would be it's not part of the general assessment. We would be looking for the decision of the municipal board to apply for both years, and the only reason for this appeal being filed is because another notice of assessment was issued in the amount that the Board of Revision determined for the 2018 year, and so I'm thinking we can expedite this if we can get acknowledgement that the 2019 notice of assessment that was sent, in essence, doesn't change the impact of the appeal that's been filed for 2018.
So, in all likelihood, you're seeking confirmation?
That's what it sounds like, but let's see, that's what Marcus is saying.
Yeah, that confirmation would be good.
That's what you're seeking is
That's a good
confirmation,
one,
correct?
Yes.
So you're okay with confirming? But
Yeah,
Are you gonna
fine.
withdraw the non-co-op?
Well, for the non-co-op, yeah, I'll withdraw that. I was actually at the board last time, and I noticed that we sent the mailer to the previous registered owner.
Okay,
And there's a 2018 uni board for
so you
all.
take off all those, you withdraw on all three of them then, right?
We've only got two.
Well, this one I withdraw. I mean, the other one, I wouldn't withdraw the non-co-op.
Okay, let's deal with the first one first then. So Susan, we're dealing with the first one, you'd like to see that one confirmed, correct?
Sorry, I don't know, I don't have the list in front of me, so I don't know which one's the first one.
first
Oh,
one.
sorry.
Talbot.
Yes.
Okay, and you're in agreement with that, correct?
Yeah, if she wants to confirm it.
Okay. And
And the
then
non-co-op?
non-co-op is removed on that one. Correct?
Yep.
And on the next one, it'll be 405 Kingford Avenue. And you're asking for the same thing on this one, but he's asking for a non-co-op. You want to go into the non-co-op for us,
Well,
Matt?
just before we
No.
get into that, the 2018 appeal, it dealt with a non-co-op. So it would almost be like penalizing the owner twice.
Had the owner sent any more information in? He'd received notice for information. That's why I'm gonna hear from Matthew first and
Okay.
see how he came
All
up
right.
with the non,
So, seeking the
walk
non,
us through the non-co-op.
yes, seeking non-co-op. It was, like Susan mentioned last time, we asked for it, and it was granted. Page 8, that's the envelope showing that the registered mail was sent out. That's the second mailer we sent. And then page 7, just go back one page, shows the tracking details, shows that it was delivered and received. So,
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that was sent out in June 2016?
yeah.
So you didn't send one for 2019, which this is for now?
Well, 19, well, it's the same, okay, so we need the 2015 mailer for the 16 reference date.
Yeah,
So this is when it was sent out. This mailer would have been applicable to both years. So we didn't send out a third or fourth round of mailers.
for this round.
Well, this is the same, like 2018 has a 2016 reference date. We
Mhm.
use the 2015 mailer because that's the last full year of income and expense information. So 18, 19 both have April 16. So this mailer, this request applies to both years.
And nothing was ever sent back in.
No, it was received, but we didn't get anything back.
Okay, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No problem.
Carry on.
And page 27 shows the decision. And then on the very back, sorry, page 20, I should direct you there first. The board ordered that the request burden of proof be placed on the applicant, be granted based on reviewing the information that Rob brought in last.
Do you have any questions of the assessor before we start?
But you do acknowledge that the assessment department did have the information on the financial information when the previous brief was filed back in, just getting the date. Um,
2018.
2008, 2017, well, I think 2018, yes.
July
Or,
27.
well, I think it was filed December 19th, 2017. So you had the information when you were preparing this, the 2019.
It doesn't work how we get the information either at the due date or if you appeal. It works by, you have a certain time to send the information in. If the information doesn't come in, then it's a non-co-op. It's not just a, you can hand this in anytime kind of thing.
But you're acknowledging that after the date, you did actually have the information.
I don't have the copy of that right now in front of me, but I'll take your word for it. Now, when you submitted, sorry, I guess, did you submit actual mailers, or did you just submit like a Microsoft Excel chart with numbers on it?
Just a summary of the information, not the entire.
So there wasn't like a breakdown or anything saying like how much R&M or anything like that?
Yes, the amount, the total amount, but not the individual components.
Okay.
Any other questions? Ron?
I have none, Mr. Chairman.
Carrie?
I have none, thank you.
If we could ask you to leave the room, we'll have a discussion. Matthew, the request for proof or non-cooperation is going to be denied, but you're asking for this to be confirmed again? You're okay with that being confirmed?
Yep.
Okay, confirmed. We'll deal with that after then. The next one we'll be dealing with is the property at 10 Charbonneau Crescent. This one, we're going to hear it?
No, it's the.
Same thing, you want to
It's the
confirm
same
it?
thing, yes.
You okay with that, Nancy, confirming? Everybody's okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, confirmed. And you're done, thank you, Susan.
Thank
You're
you.
right, that was quicker. you guys want to take a break before we go get into the last two?
That's good, that's good.
Yeah?
Yes, we are going to take a short break. Just so you're sitting. Call the meeting back to order.
Try to be sworn in or affirmed. Can you state your full name, please?
Omar Ashraf,
Do you swear that the evidence you have to give at this hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
We'll be dealing with 1340 Concordia Avenue. Matthew, when you are ready.
One sec. Okay, 1340 Concordia Avenue, roll number 04007054, 333. Location, on Concordia East, just east of Lagimodier. 2010, 172 units, 220 outdoor parking stalls. Construction class D, wood or steel framed. 2019 assessment, 31,434,000. If you go to page 5, you'll see that was determined, this was at the Board of Revision for 2018. What was done there, Mr. Wong, he took the most recent income, averaged the expenses, stabilized the net operating income. These are a model-driven cap rate of 5%. To come up with the assessed value. Just glancing ahead, I know Mr. Ashraf, looking at his brief, it looks like he's in agreement with the net operating income. So it's predominantly cap rate consideration. So you can see our decision, the Board of Revision's decision last time on page 17 was they were in agreement with the recommendation by the Assessment and Taxation Department. That was based on the actuals and the 5% cap rate. The recommendation was not accepted by the applicant, but the board ruled in favor of the city. So being built in 2010, and the area that it's in, 1998 and later, gets a 5% cap rate. This property, so it's based on the actuals, the model-driven cap rate, and it was agreed upon last time at 5% at the board. That's what I'm asking for this time, that the board remains consistent with the 2018 decision. That's my notes. Thank you.
Omar, you got some questions of the assessor?
Yes, please, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. So I'll start with Municipal Assessment Act 53-1. Subject subsections 2 and 3, a board shall, at a hearing of an application that pertains to the amount of an assessed value, place the burden of proof on the assessor on matters at issue with respect to the amount of the assessed value. From my understanding, only page 6 is pertaining to capitalization rates, correct?
Yes.
There are no sales or any market information pertaining to sales that have occurred that will be presented today.
That's correct.
My next question is, what is the City of Winnipeg's definition of low-rise?
5 stories and below.
Okay. And the capitalization rate for the 2 properties that we're going to be dealing with today is done by a model.
That's correct.
Would a fourplex be included in the capitalization rate study?
For our cap study, yes, we look at the income and expenses. And if the income and expenses look like they are behaving like other units out in the market, then we would choose to include that in our model. If they weren't, then they would be rejected and they would not be included.
And would you say that in the past 10, 12 years, the market has shown two different types of properties? Those that transact normally and those that transact with a value add theorem by the purchaser?
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Okay, we'll get into that later. But would a 1920 or a 1930 constructed building be in the same model as the two subject properties today?
In our system, yes, but we group it by age and area, so 1920 would not be applicable for 2010.
And would recent renovations and capital expenditure be taken into account when choosing which properties to group with the subject properties?
It's based on age and area. If they're, say their expenses are really high, that wouldn't be reflected in the overall expense ratios. For a newer property, say 2000 property decided to spend 5,000 a unit, and they just threw in their R&M, we wouldn't include that in our model, so that wouldn't have an effect on the expense ratio.
What if a 1963, let's say, property that had significant rehabilitation and refurbishing did transact? Would the capital expenditures that were taken, would the capital expenditures be taken into account?
Not for overall expenses, no, but if you're talking about the property on a site-specific basis, we'd give it an effective age. Perhaps increase the income quality to increase the rent. Granted, if they have all these cap expenditures and they get an exemption at the rental board, we have to recognize that because that affects value.
And I see on page 6 that the multifamily property types are split into high-rise, low-rise, low-rise A, and low-rise B. Correct?
That is correct.
And correct me if I'm wrong, all low-rises have a cap rate between 5 and 6.75, regardless of whether they're A or B.
That would be correct.
So the A and B is just there to take into account the different reporting methods done by companies such as Colliers, CBRE, and Stevenson.
As far as I know, yeah.
So where would that leave townhomes?
A townhouse?
Yes.
I don't know how that's applicable to this property, it's not a townhouse.
It's because some of the sales that I will be presenting are townhomes.
I don't have that information.
Are downtown properties and suburban properties separated when it comes to the model? Akin to the office downtown A, B, suburban A, B split?
Yeah, we have them broken up by market region. Every area has the same age groupings, 45 and earlier, 46 to 59, 60 to 74, 75 to 97, 98 and earlier. And every market region, but market region 4, which is essentially the north end, have the same grouping of, have the same cap rates for those respective age groups.
Could you repeat the age split again, please?
Okay, so 1945 and earlier,
Yeah.
1946 to 59, 1960 to 74,
Mhm.
1975 to 1997, and then 98 and later.
Mhm.
And so, market region 4, the modelers determined that there was a 3/4 point premium for properties in this area. That's what the income and expenses were showing. So in order to reflect the area not being as desirable for purchase, a higher cap was given. So, yeah.
Would you agree then that if we were to find a sale comparable in the same market region as one of the two subject properties today, and that is of a similar age, then that would be a very good comp to look at, one that could give us a good look at what the market value of a subject property would be?
I'd have to look at the income and expenses and sales and history of the property. I couldn't say one right away.
I think that concludes my questions for now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Carrie, any questions for the assessor?
Have you inspected this property?
Unfortunately, no.
Has anyone inspected this property?
I would assume when it got put on the roll back in 2010 or 11, that someone would have gone out there and inspected it, but I don't have any system
Right.
notes about that. That's our procedure though.
Okay. And page 6, that you've got the cap rates listed, that's all based on model?
That's correct.
That's all my questions, thank you.
Ron?
Yeah, just run me through what happened the last go-round to this property.
Sure.
I think it was reduced.
On page 17, 18, the last page, what had happened was originally, the model came in a bit higher, came in at 32,272. What had happened is Ken took a look at the expenses, income expense statements, which I've included in the middle of the brief, just to verify numbers. And what he did, if you look at page 5, I included the table here. Took the most recent income, and then he took an average of the expenses, used a 5% cap rate to come up with the value. The board, the recommendation was made to the appellant. It was not accepted, however, the board decided on that.
So there was a recommendation by the board that the applicant did not accept.
It says it, yeah, for details, based on the assessor's recommendation, which was not accepted by the
Okay,
applicants.
I can see that here. And that was, and they used a 5% cap rate?
They did, they used it on that.
And the V-Day at that time was?
The reference date?
Yeah.
It's the same reference date as.
Okay, which is April the 1st,
Mhm.
16, eh?
That is correct.
And did I hear you say something about it went to the municipal board? Or was I mistaken?
I don't have,
Okay,
I don't think it did, unless Mr. Ashraf can correct me, I don't think it's at the municipal board.
did you take that to the municipal board?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, so it is at the community board.
so it's at the municipal board, correct?
However, the property owner would like to appeal 2019.
Yeah.
now,
Okay,
especially with the backlog.
yep,
and-
okay. I just wanted to get, you know, that straight, okay. I don't think I have any further questions, no.
Matthew, on your page 6, multifamily. This is a low rise, correct?
That's correct.
And you're showing lows and highs, but then when it comes to the averages, 20 percentile falls into 5 1/4, and 80 percentile falls into 550.
Mhm.
So is there none that fall into the 5%?
That's just where the majority of the distribution sits is between
5
those.
1/4 and,
Yeah, this is newer. It's got less than 1% vacancy in the most recent year leading up to the reference date. It's a good product.
you haven't looked at any of the sales that did occur? You just used the model?
Model. I mean, 333 Ward and restabilize at 5.
Actually,
Depends on who you talk to, I
yeah,
guess.
it's 5 1/4, 5.4, 5 1/4.
I think it was 5.04 in the study.
Depending on who was doing it. But now you've got the CBRA anywhere from 5.75 to 6 on low-rise B. So this wouldn't be a low-rise B, this would be a low-rise,
In my opinion, if A is better than B,
A?
it would be an A.
and their lowest is 5.5.
Stevenson had 5 to 5.5. I mean,
But nothing, well, Colliers doesn't have any, oh yeah, they do have a, they got
They
one
have
at
5 to
5.75,
5.75.
which falls into your 20. Okay, let's hear your presentation.
May I ask one last question, please?
Sure, I'll allow that.
On page 4, we have the rent comparables. Are you aware of any transactions that occurred on the market for any of the rent comparables?
I don't have that information.
Let's go on to the presentation.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask one?
Sure
other
you
question? Okay. Matthew, do you have any data in regards to the percentage of increases for apartment buildings? You know, appreciation?
No, I do not.
No? So there's no percentage-wise kicking around, eh?
No, in this instance, we, instead of model, we went right to the
Mhm.
stabilized NOI. But I don't have any sort of ratio or statistics study that tells me which area went up by how much.
I thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Now we'll go on to the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may, I just want to bring up the fact that there's a document called Appendix A. Appendix A will apply to both properties that we have on the document today. So for the sake of brevity, after concluding 1340 Concordia, we can introduce the second property and simply carry over the appendix if that is fine with the assessor.
That's fine.
Thank you. So I'll start on 1340 Concordia Avenue, the small 24-page submission. As the assessor mentioned, this is a low-rise multifamily property, as you can see on page 4 and 5. 3 buildings, 63, 63, and 47 units, adding to 172 units. The valuation date is April 2016, and the size of the site is 5.17 acres with a 2010 completion date. Now, to add a background or some context to why this appeal is occurring. Last year, we appealed all 12 properties that are owned by the father company, Broad Street Properties, over 2 days. 10 of the 12 properties gained an increase in capitalization rate from 5 to 5.25. All 10 did not have a recommendation from the assessor or the city of Winnipeg. Only 2 properties had an NOI recommendation. Not a capitalization rate recommendation, but an NOI recommendation. We thought that that was a good start, but was not enough, and as a result, we rejected it. The board thought that the final decision was to give 10 of the 12 properties an increase in cap rate, and then just carry over the recommendation and withhold the increase in cap rate for the 2 properties that we have today. Broad Street Properties entered the market around 2006. As you recall, the rent control changes occurred around that time, and have been building properties that are not downtown, but are in the suburbs. And the properties are very similar to each other. We joke that if you see one, you've seen them all. And that was the baffling part from my perspective, because in my opinion, the NOI change should not indicate whether the cap rate changes or not. The NOI is property specific, but the cap rate is specific not just to the property, but to the cluster of properties that were used in the mall. We have 2 requests today for the 2019 assessment, one based on a 5.25 cap and one based on a 5.75 cap. Last year, the request was 5.75, and we ended up at 5.25. The 575 request is based on sales that were provided by Colliers without an NOI by Colliers. It was just subject sale date, subject address date, and the price of the sale. I will get into those later, but for now, I'd like to mention that we will start, when we get the appendix, with the 525 argument that is based on sales that were provided by Altus Group in an appraisal for a very similar project, very similar property around April 2016. That's basically my summary of testimonial evidence. So I'll skip that part. On page 9, you can see the maps that show where the property is located. You can see that on page 10 and 11. On page 12 is a photo of the outside. I inspected that property last year, before the hearing, and earlier this year. Page 13, more photos. Page 14 has a zoom in on the satellite location of the property. And to the right of the property is a street called Pegwas, or Pegwa, I'm not sure how to properly pronounce it. Pegwas, thank you. And on Pegwas Street is a property that we own called 525 Pegwas Street. That property was under appeal and gained an increase in cap rate from 5 to 525 last year. The distance between the two properties is 300 meters. You can stand on one of the properties, throw a rock, and hit a window. 4-minute walk and just one street in between. And on page 16, if you take another route, it's a 3-minute walk with 270 meters. Now, to summarize what the assessor mentioned, I just want to clear any confusion about how the 2018-19 values were derived by the assessor, Mr. Wong. As you can see on page 18, the property started with an assessed value of $32,272,000. The value was revised to $31,434,000, only based on NOI, no cap rate. On page 21 is a quick summary of the initial assessment versus the assessor recommendation. So the EGI dropped from $2,535,546 to $2,497,136. The expense ratios changed slightly. NOI changed. Cap rate did not change. One of 2 properties out of 12. Same exact appendix was presented for all 12. And on page 23 is the 2019 low-rise cap rate request for the subject property, based on 2 different cap rates, as we mentioned. We're not disputing the NOI that was recommended by the assessors. We're disputing the cap rate, going with a 525, 29.936 billion. Going with a 575 is a 27.333 billion. That concludes the first part. I can go on to the appendix now, or we can hear the questions.
Let's go right on to your appendix, then we'll deal with the questions after.
Thank you. So Appendix A, as I mentioned, applies to both properties. I'll start on page 4, if you may, with the main sales that I would like to bring to your attention today. Now, to start with, I would like to really put emphasis on this. I think that by far and away the best comparable to both properties in the 101-page document is 333 Ward Ave. It's one of the very few recent sales of new properties. It transacted 3 months before the valuation date. The property was built in 2006. So it's slightly older than 1340 Concordia, but it's the same age as 1153 St. Anne. The property is also a low-rise, like both of the subject properties today. And according to Altus Group, and according to talks that I've had with multiple people who work in the real estate market here, from Stevenson to Colliers, the property at least has a cap rate of 5.21. The NOI per unit of the property when it transacted was $9,105. And if you look at the bottom at the assessed NOI per unit of the subject properties, you'll see that they are very similar to the sale NOI per unit for 333 Ward Avenue. $9,105 for 333 Ward, $9,138 assessed NOI for 1340 Concordia, and $8,272 for 1153 St. Anne's. All 5 sales were derived from the same appraisal that I have with me here. I've included some pages from it. It's for a very similar property to the subject property. 2 of the sales are high-rise properties. 1750 Pembina Highway, which is the second comp, and 270 Rosamond Road. Both properties have not had significant refurbishing, renovation, or improvements to the aging product. This is opposed to sale number 3, 403 St. Anne's Road, and sale number 4, 650 Stafford Street. Both are low rises, and yes, are older, but were refurbished and renovated significantly before the sale, which has allowed the NOI to be reflective of what the actual NOI is. And this is where I'd like to mention one of the main parts of my argument here. The Winnipeg market has been unorthodox, especially since the rent control changes. I believe, and I think it's a belief that is shared in Winnipeg by a lot of people, that a lot of the sales that have occurred in the last decade or so have artificially low cap rates. Now, why do I say that? Those sales transacted with the purchaser acknowledging the fact that these properties are producing low NOIs. That is mainly because they're under the rent control schedule. If the purchaser was to improve the properties to a specific level, he or she would be able to overcome the rent control, increase the NOI to where it should be in theory, and as a result, stabilize the cap rate. Now, of course, any seller acknowledges that and is not going to budge on the sale price. As a result, since the cap rate is the NOI over the sale price, we see that the NOI is low, sale price doesn't change much. And as a result, the cap rate is artificially lower. I'm going to go in detail now about all 5 sales as provided by Altus and as of my research myself. Page 5 is the cover page of the appraisal that was provided. The property is 20 Guy Savoie, 2012 property, so it's slightly newer than both subject properties today. This is on page 6. The property has 196 two-bedroom units, similar to these 2 subject properties. And the effective date of appraisal, which is why I chose this specific appraisal, is March 10, 2016. So 20 or 21 days before the valuation date for 2019. On page 7 is the beginning of the cap rate analysis done by Altus. I took all 5 sales, did not filter anything, to present to the board what Altus presented to us. Now, I'd like to start with 333 Ward. The sale is of a property that is in St. Vital area. It's a 6-minute drive from 1153 St. Anne. That's it. 6-minute drive. We can skip ahead and look at some of the photos of the property on page 12. But please mark page 7 because we're going to be coming back to it pretty often. Page 12 is the location of the property, and page 13 is a map indicating the distance between 333 Ward and 1153 St. Anne. The properties are almost on the same road, just a couple of rights and lefts here and there. And both are in the same market area. On page 14 is a photo of the exterior. I inspected this property last year in September, but these photos are not from then. As you can see, wood and stucco, also like our properties, very similar from the exterior. One of the very few differences is that it's 3 stories and not 4, but it's still a low rise because it's under 5. Page 16 is a fitness room that is in the property. We don't have any fitness rooms in our properties. Page 17 is a community room with a TV, futsal, and I heard there's a billiards table, but I'm not sure. Maybe internet rumors. And page 18 is a photo of the covered parking spots that our properties also do not have. "40 vehicles can be accommodated into that wood frame garage building as of, according to page 7 by Altus. Sale 2, Pembina Highway, 1750. It has more units than the subject property. It was built in 1975/1976. The conclusion was that the cap rate is 4.07. Now, what this property does not have is recent renovations that were significant enough to lift it from the rent control. The location of the property falls on page 20. And on page 21, you can see the exterior of the property. It's close to some retail shops such as Starbucks, Pizza, and Money Mart. Page 22 is a photo that I was able to get online of the back of the building. As you can see, not that much renovation has occurred to it. It's significantly older. On page 23 is something that I found on a website called 58winnipeg.com, a Chinese listing website that listed a unit in 1750 Pembina Highway. And basically what I'd like to bring to your attention is the kitchen. This is a very old kitchen. Now, this listing, if Google Translate helped me enough, is from August 7, 2017. So it's 1 year after the valuation date. And is 2.5 years after the sale date. The state of this kitchen hints that the refurbishing and the renovations that have occurred were not significant enough to lift this property from rent control, leading to a low NOI that the purchaser was aware of. If we go back to page 8, in the first paragraph, Altus Group delves into this. We can see the highlighted line. Amenities include an outdoor swimming pool, indoor world tour and sauna, tennis courts, a fitness and a recreation room. Property had experienced some grading, including newer common area finishes, replacement with some suite flooring, and replacement of roughly 40% of the windows within the last year.
Hangers.
about 10 years. However, from my understanding, this was not enough to lift it from rent control. Moving on to sale number 3, which is on page 24, but we're going to cross-reference back to page 8 again. So this is a wood frame low-rise, 14 units, built in 1956. Cap rate is 5.67. Now, this property, according to all this, as we can see on page 8, second line, property has undergone a rehabilitation in the last 2 years, although the roof and mechanical equipment remains original or dated, and some old original windows remain in place. Majority of interior finishes were renovated: kitchen cabinets, countertops, backsplashes, appliances and fixtures, bathroom cabinets and fixtures, flooring, decorating, most windows. As a result, it's not under rent control. And you can see the location of the property on page 25. On page 26 is another zoomed-in map of the location of the property. And again, this property is 6 minutes away from 1153 St. Anne. So 2 of the sales that we have today are 6 minutes apart from 1153 St. Anne. They are in the same market area, same vibe. I could not get evidence from the inside of the interior finishes, unfortunately. Thought about leasing a unit for a month, but alas. But on page 27, you can see that there are lots of air conditioners on the window keys. Sale number 4 follows on page 28, which is 650 Stafford Street, also known as Owen Apartments. Now, if we were to go back to page 8 to discuss sale 4, 26-unit walk-up in Fort Rouge. Building had undergone upgrading that had removed the property from rent control. However, minimal upgrading has been done to the suite finishes, and I'll show evidence of the suite finishes. There were some vacancy issues at the time, and the purchaser intended to undertake further rehabilitation, which he has, and I will show that on photos that follow from page 29 onwards. 29 is the location of the property. On page 30 is a photo of the outside, of the exterior. Page 31 is a zoom in on a sign on the side of the building that says newly renovated, new designer kitchens and fixtures. And you can see that that is for Owen Apartments in the second screenshot. Page 32, and I'm sorry for the very small font. I tried, but I didn't want to change anything. This property is now managed by Towers Realty Group. And in the highlighted part, you can see that it has been recently renovated throughout, upgraded kitchens, new cabinets, new appliances, including a dishwasher. So this property was purchased after some renovations and then was refurbished even more, leading to a better product, one that I argue is comparable to the subject property. Page 33 and onwards are photos of the interior of the property. Page 34 is the kitchen. Page 35 is the kitchen and dining room. So now I'll move on to the last sale, which is sale number 5, 250 Rosalind Road. Property that is still under rent control, or at least was at the sale date of April 2014, 2 years before the valuation date. 142 units, 12 stories. It's important to keep in mind, I'll reference back to page 8, that this property is held under condominium title, and there are an additional 19 condominium townhomes. Now, the sale did not include the townhomes. the sale included the high-rise, which constitutes an 82.5% of the share of the property. The townhomes, if they sold separately. Going back to page 37, you can see the map of the property. Canterbury House. Page 38 is the exterior, so is page 39. And this is of the high-rise, not the townhomes. What follows is a printed page from the Winnipeg Architecture Foundation. The page was printed on the 26th of July 2018, and it discusses Canterbury House. This concrete and brick-clad structure is a good local example of a modern architectural post-war high-rise apartment block design. Highlighted as a very crucial part in my opinion. In addition to the main section, the complex features a second area comprised of townhouses. This latter building, which has been recently remodeled, has separate entrances. So according to the Winnipeg Architecture Foundation, the townhomes have been recently remodeled, but not the high-rise. On page 41 is a photo of the exterior of the townhome structure. At the top and below, you'll see that it's in the background of the high-rise property. So just to confirm this, the high-rise itself has been barely renovated, and if it has, it's just common areas and some suites. However, the townhomes have been remodeled, and I'm not sure if they transacted or not, but they are on a separate title anyway. So this sale has a cap rate, just to recap, of 4.66, as you can see on page 36. I am of the opinion that this property has an artificially low cap rate, and that if it is purchased and refurbished, renovated and remodeled, the new owner could have a substantially higher NOI. On page 42, is another comparable that was provided by Altus Group. However, it's a post facto comparable. The property, transacted on October 2016. Townhomes, 2 and 3 bedrooms, state of the art, 148 units, 5.52 cap. This is nearly 6 months after the valuation date. On page 43, you can see a photo of the outside, of the exterior of one of the townhomes. And the same thing applies for page 44. To recap this sale on page 45, townhomes, 148 units, October 2016, 2014 to 2016 built, 552 cap, and a significantly higher NOI per unit than the subject property. And of course, a significantly higher sale price than the requested assessment that I'm asking for respectfully today. So to recap all of this on page 46, I am of a strong belief that 333 Ward Avenue is a very, very strong comparable to both properties. When it comes to location, it's very close to 1153 St. Anne. When it comes to age, it's very close to both properties. The same applies for number of unit and property type, low-rise. One could argue that that 333 Ward Avenue is a superior property based on the fact that it has a fitness room and more amenities for the tenants. The NOI per unit of the sale provided by Altus is 9,105, which is very close again to both subject properties. This is the median of the five sales. I did not include the post facto sale in this analysis, just the 5 original sales. Since the median is 333 Ward Avenue, I think it's appropriate that we use that cap rate instead of 5.0 in the similar way that the board thought last year of 10 of the 12 properties. That concludes the first part of Appendix A. I think we'll be out by noon, if you ask me. I attached.
You don't have to wait that long.
I'm going to go through this quickly because I think that the first part of the evidence is stronger based on the methodology that was used by Altus compared to the methodology that I used last year. But I still wanted to include this. So I attached the 12 decisions on page 47 onwards. "525 Pegwith Street," which is the appraisal that we used, changed to 525. 20 East Savoy Drive, changed to 525. Oh, I'm sorry, I just got confused myself. 525 Pegwith is the property that is 300 meters from 1340 Concordia. But 20 East Savoy is the property whose appraisal we used today. Page 51 is 2465 Main Street, a property in a different location, 525 cap. 2425 Main Street follows on page 53. Very close to 2465, akin to 1340 and 525 Pegwith, 525 cap. 875 Camille is on page 55. Now it's important to keep in mind that these are townhomes, still changed to 525 as you can see on page 55. 225 Northtown Road, one of our newest properties and newer than both subject properties, on page 57. And page 58 did attain a 525. 204 Burning Glass Road, page 59, page 60, 525. 216 Burning Glass Road, page 61 and 62, 525. I'm going to skip the next two properties and get to page 67 because the last two properties were also 525 for the sake of brevity. And page 67 we see that 1340 Concordia did not attain a 525. It just attained the reduction that was offered by the city of Winnipeg. The same applies on page 69 for the second property we're going to discuss today, 1153 St. Anne. Now the methodology that I used last year starts on page 71 and relies on the model that the city used themselves to attain the NOI for all properties. As you can see on page 74, calibration of the submodels, the median of the PGI is 810. Vacancy and collection loss, and this applies for multifamily in the city of Winnipeg. Vacancy and collection loss, 1.7, 2.8, 3.5. I went with a 2.8 to maintain consistency. And for the expenses, I used 51.14% to maintain consistency. On page 75 are the 4 properties that I used as my main part of my evidence submission last year in 2018. 4 sales. All 4 fall under the 2-year range from the valuation date, as old as the 20th of June 2014 up until the 7th of April 2016, which is only 7 days post-fact. All 4 units have more than 25, all 4 properties have more than 25 units. Typical NOI was derived by multiplying the number of units by rent, 810, multiplied by 12, and then I deducted a 2.8% vacancy and a 51.14% op expense, leading to the typical NOIs that you see in the table. Using the sale prices that were reported by Colliers, dividing the NOI by the sale price, yields 4 cap rates that range from 4.77 to 5.94, with a median of 5.73, which is the second request, or yes, the additional request that is similar to the one that we presented last year. Now, one thing that we should keep in mind is that all 4 properties, although they have more than 25 units, do have less than 100 units. I am of the belief that properties that are this large, so such as the 2 subject properties that we're looking at, such as 333 Ward, usually transact in a market that is separate from the vast majority of the inventory in any big city. Because a mom and pop shop is not gonna walk in and purchase 333 Ward Avenue. An institutional investor would do that. As a result, the number of possible, willing, and able purchasers is limited for properties of such size. So in theory, there would be more purchasers that would be able to purchase the 4 comparables as opposed to the 2 subject properties, which I think should be taken into account when it comes to the capitalization rate. I attached some photos that we can just flick through from page 76 onwards of the 4 comparables. All 4 are low rises. I have no information regarding their age. I have no information regarding whether they were refurbished or not. I only had a spreadsheet provided by Colliers with sale prices and addresses. As a result, I cannot speak to whether they were under rent control or not. On page 84 is my last 3 sales, to give us a total of 13 sales in this batch. These 3 sales were done in a similar system or model as the last 4 properties that we looked at, provided by Colliers. The reason I included them separately is that they fall away from the 2-year range for sales. The first sale occurred on January 20th, 2017, cap rate of 5.77. Second sale, 166 River Road, cap rate of 6.5. And 77 Eugene Street had a cap rate of 6.15. Some more photos are included on the next few pages. I'd like to bring your attention to page 88, 166 River Avenue, which indicates that the property is again newly renovated. On page 90, the 77 Eugene Street, that was also and is still also managed by Towers Realty Group again, and the properties have been newly renovated. All major and A. No, I'm sorry, they're close to all major and A. But they've been completely updated throughout, featuring brand new open concept kitchens and the whole lot. On page 92 is a map of the last 7 properties that we discussed. So not the Altus properties using Altus's NOIs, but using the city of Winnipeg's NOIs, median NOIs, and EGIs, PGIs, and expense ratio. What follows on page 93 is something that I'm not sure if the city of Winnipeg took into account. This is not just the CBRE study for Canada, it's the CBRE North America cap rate study. And it's in the first half of 2016, as a result, falls in the valuation data. As you can see on page 94, or the following page, Winnipeg Suburban Class B, low-rise B is 5.75 to 6. There was no mention of low-rise A. They had high rises and low-rise B. This is different, however, in the next report, which is the Canadian cap rate investment and insight for Q2 2016. This is just Canada, and it goes more into detail regarding Winnipeg's real estate market. As you can see on page 96, low-rise A trades between 5.5 and 6. Low-rise B trades between 5.75 and 6. Today we're discussing two properties that have a cap rate of 5. On the next page is the cap rate report for Colliers, for Winnipeg. And as you can see on page 98, it ranges from 5 to 5.75. Page 99 is the Stevenson Advisors report for fall 2016. And on page 100, you can see that the multifamily cap rate ranges from 5 to 5.5. And that concludes my submission for Appendix A that applies to both properties. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Questions, Matthew?
So you've used a few sales, first of all, that occurred after April 1st, 2016. Would you agree that the board is not able to use those at all in determining their cap rate?
I cannot speak for the board.
Good answer,
Okay, so you've got 5 sales you've provided. You know what the average cap rate is for these 5 sales, if you average the numbers out?
No.
Would you agree that if you added them all up and divided by 5, the average would be 5%?
I don't have that information.
5.002?
I did not look at the average because I think the median is more indicative of what the actual pool value would be in such a small sample size.
Would you agree that high-rise and low-rise are different markets for a purchaser?
Not per se. I'd say that they're both still real estate products. I'd say that in the city of Winnipeg, we do see one thing that is consistent usually. High-rises are more centrally located than low-rises. And I would argue, one could argue they are in more preferable locations. I'd also bring up the fact that the cap rate used by the city of Winnipeg for high-rise is the same range, 5 to 6.75, across low-rise and high-rise. And from my understanding, looking at page 6 in your submission, that summarizes the table of the reports, Colliers indicated that high-rises transact from 4.75 to 5.75, while low-rises transact from 5 to 5.75, while CBRE indicated a 5 to 5.75 range, compared to a 5.5 to 6 or 5.75 6. So it seems that in the city of Winnipeg, around the valuation date, using the reports submitted by the assessor, high-rises tend to transact with lower caps. So as a result, I cannot really speak to whether there are different markets. That is subjective. But it seems to me that around that valuation date, high-rises were more preferable by investors and yielded better rates.
You mentioned 650 Stafford. I've been to that property.
What page is it on, please?
I'm just talking about 650 Stafford.
Okay.
There was 2 phases of renovations. There was the pre-sale exterior renovations,
Okay.
and then there was the post-sale interior refit, basically.
And just so we're on the same page, that's page 28 in my submission, correct? I think so.
I'm just talking about from memory. Like, I went there,
Okay.
I inspected the property for the post-sale renovations. Would you agree that whoever purchased the property, would you say it was purchased for its pre-renovation NOI if they were planning on refitting the kitchens, the floors, the bathrooms? I know they're putting in 2 new suites in the basement right now as well. Would it be appropriate to use pre-renovation net operating income, if that's clearly gonna have an effect on the money going forward that they receive?
Could we look at page 8 then of my submission to highlight that question? From what I have received from Altus Group as of page 8, CL4, second sentence, the building had undergone upgrading that had removed the property from rent controls. However, minimal upgrading has been done to the suite finishes. And I'll take your word on the pre and post changes in the property.
They redid the whole thing on the inside.
And we can see that. I
Yeah.
attached those photos. So
That's-
that means,
That's not what it looked like when it's.
Well, let him answer the
Yeah,
question
okay,
in a minute.
sorry.
if that is the case, then the NOI was artificially low, and the cap rate would be artificially low, which would indicate that the cap rate for this property should be higher in theory. Do you agree?
No.
Now you're asking me a question. Go ahead, Matthew.
No. So, 333 Ward, that's the best sales comp, would you say?
I go to sleep and dream of it.
Do you?
Yes. I love that property.
Okay. So, you've said that you've got a 5.21 cap rate, and that came from Altus?
Correct, and it was confirmed by Stevenson and Colliers.
When they gave you this cap rate, when they came up with these cap rates, do they provide income and expense breakdowns? That's how cap rates are calculated, right? Stabilized over a few years. Did they provide any of this to you?
I provided what they provided to that sale on page 10,
On page 10. So,
apart from the write-up that is on page 7 and 9.
so on page 10,
And just to be clear, this is all the information that we both have today about 333 Ward. This is all that we have in front of the board.
well, this is what you've provided, but I mean, the board has seen 333 Ward, they're pretty familiar with it. So did they provide you, so just to be clear, no income and expense stabilization for you to look over or verify or anything to come up with the 5.21? Basically, they told you this is what it is, and they say it was confirmed by other agencies, is that correct?
I went out and spoke to other agencies, both last year and this year.
Okay, now did those agencies provide you with any sort of breakdown in regards to the income and expenses, how they stabilized at all?
No, and I would think that this information should not be shared to me. Why
Okay.
would another company?
Well, just to confirm how numbers, are you aware that this property was using Altus's cap rate study for the 2018 cycle?
I don't work for Altus
Okay.
anymore.
Are you aware that when they stabilized, displaying a 3-year full income expense breakdown, they came up with a cap rate of 5.04?
I am not aware of that, and I have nothing in front of me that says that.
I'm just verbally testifying this. The panel members, they've seen it. They've seen the study. For any of your properties, do you have an income and expense breakdown?
Since we don't own them, and we're not the city of Winnipeg, we would not have that
Okay,
information.
so you just went by what they told you?
Yes, because they're competitors, we don't have information on their expenses or leases.
Is there a waiting list to get into the subject property?
I'm not aware of that, and are you talking about right now?
Yeah, right now.
I don't work in sales, and I don't think that's applicable because the valuation date is April 1st, 2016.
Do you know what the vacancy rate is in the most recent year leading up to the reference date, 2015? The materials I provided on page 8, it looks like the vacancy is 0.73%. If you look at line 123 vacancy, and you take the income that they've provided, would you say that's better than market, worse than market? how would you say it's performing? Because I wanna know if there's, it seems like it's doing pretty well.
Well, I'd say that the city of Winnipeg luckily is doing pretty well. I'd like to cross-reference that to page 74 of my submission. That is the city of Winnipeg's calibration of the submodels that includes the vacancy and collection loss that was used by the city of Winnipeg. The three vacancy and collection loss rates in the model are 1.7%, 2.8%, and 3.5%.
So the subject's doing even better than what the,
Very close. I'd say most properties in the city of Winnipeg are doing really well. Which is why I'm not asking for vacancy today, it's just cap rate.
would the board be contradicting itself if it was to go against its decision last time to maintain the 5% cap rate?
I cannot speak for the board at all, it's not my position.
You mentioned Canada-wide cap rate studies. Would it be appropriate to use numbers out of different markets like Toronto, Vancouver in shaping your determination?
No, they were just on the page when I took that excerpt. I did not bring them up at all because I didn't look at them, to be honest. I only work in Manitoba, Saskatchewan, BC, and Alberta, so Toronto and Halifax only applies.
Okay. Those are my questions, thank you.
Carrie?
I have no questions.
Ron? I just have a few questions. Your NOIs are pretty close. However, there's a difference of like $42,000, okay? So if you cap that at 5%, there's a value of $840, or $840,000. So,
I'm sorry, which page are you on?
I'm sorry?
Which page are you on?
I'm all over the map.
Okay.
I noticed that, like I say, the NOIs are fairly close. It can be, but, to nitpick, I guess, do you know what your expense ratio is?
We actually argued that last year.
Okay,
I'm
because
trying
the
to
city's at
open
36.3 or, yeah. I think.
For both properties?
For Concordia,
Okay.
okay. So, I'm just wondering where the discrepancy is. Whether it be gross revenue or whether it be expenses. So, it's close, but I'd like to know.
I'd like to know too, but I don't have
Okay.
access to that
You don't.
information.
You don't have a figure for gross? No.
For our property?
Yeah. I don't think so. I haven't seen it.
For gross income.
Yeah, but net-wise, you do.
Correct. I do have the net. I didn't include the gross
Yeah.
because we're not appealing any of that.
Okay, okay.
But would it be, yeah, no, I don't have it.
Okay. So the other thing that I see here is that there's really no benefit to put NOI per unit, because really it should be gross, okay? There's no, because we don't know what the expenses are.
Right.
Okay, so maybe the next time,
Fair enough.
I can see your point in regards to bringing in the board's decisions. And it points to the 5.25%, okay? So that's justified. However, we don't know what the guts are for these decisions. So we, as the board, don't put a lot of weight on it, okay?
Got it.
So if you're going to do presentations like that, bring us the rest, if you
Well-
can.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. And that's why I split my argument into two parts.
Yeah.
One that has nothing to do with last year, right? And then I included the decisions and then just a summary of what I presented last year.
So the other things that I see here, this property is at the municipal board, and you can, go forward with it at that point. However, looking at the cap rates, 5 1/4, and you're as high as 5 3/4, okay? So there's a difference there of $2.6 million, okay?
Correct.
So I'm wondering if you can, give us a final figure for the board to either be 5 1/4% or to be 5 3/4. So you can conclude that value, and because I am more or less finished.
I am of a stronger opinion that 525 is more applicable, as we can see from Altus's appraisal that I have with me today, and from the methodology that was used by Altus, as opposed to the one that I used last year. I just wanted to include the 575 as a secondary request, and to combine that with the decisions, to paint a better and clearer picture of what happened last year and what we're looking for this year. So I am of the opinion that 525, just like the board thought last year for 10 of the 12 properties, is the applicable cap rate.
Okay, and I know it's tough to find good cap rates, etc., especially, I guess, for the age of the property. And I did see that, the subject, was built in 2010, and they're all 2-bedroom units.
Correct.
So I'm looking at Ward, and I think Ward is the most comparable. It's got 101 2 bedrooms and one, the difference being the 3-bedroom units, the two 3-bedroom units. I think that concludes my, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And you said you had no questions, right? You're ready to ask me?
Yes. Thank you.
Your page 42 on comparables was Southview Crescent.
Yes.
Is that the one in, that's Point? Okay, that's the one in South Point. That was a 50% purchase, correct?
Correct.
And there was some land that was involved in that transaction as well, was there not?
I'm not aware of that, to be honest.
I just, being a townhouse, the type of construction, the location, I didn't put too much weight on that.
I see where you're coming from, which is why I did not include it in the analysis stuff.
Okay. Good way to answer that. And you answered my question on the other one. On page 18, is that the parking for Ward Avenue?
Correct, Mr. Chair.
And how many stalls did you say that was?
40.
I don't think you said 40, no.
As per Altus on page 7,
Yeah?
the wood frame garage building accommodates 40 vehicles.
40, okay.
Both of our properties have no concrete or wood frame parking.
Okay, I put a question mark, I guess I hadn't heard you clearly.
I'm sorry.
No, it's... See, we do listen. And all these properties are before the board right now? Are all of them being appealed, or just these two?
Just
before?
these two.
Just these two are being appealed?
Correct. The other 10, we were satisfied with the 525 cap rate as provided by the board last year.
And you were happy with the NOI that you received as well then, correct?
Correct.
I've got no further questions on this one. Let's now move on to the last one, which would be, now we won't have to go through the appendix on this one because you already did. So let's deal with 1153 St. Anne's Road, if you would, sir.
Okay.
And again, this is just a cap rate one that we're dealing with again?
From
Correct.
what I remember, briefly reviewing, let me take a look first.
On your page 3, can you, adjust your number?
Oh, this is,
On your page 1, you have 27,628. And on your
Yeah.
page 3, it's got 28.
we're just asking for confirmation at 27,628.
Sorry.
It's
That-
down lower.
Yeah, down lower, it was adjusted. But from what I recall, I'm just trying to dig through Mr. Ashraf. I think it's just cap, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Built in 2000, over 2006, 2007, 1153 St. Anne's, 08021070000, Res App, 4 stories, 4 buildings, 167 suites, 222 outdoor parking stalls, wood or steel frame exterior walls, 124 2-bedroom, 43 1-bedroom. So on page 5, that was the breakdown, same as last time, most recent income, average the expenses out with a 5% cap, same story as last time. The board went with our recommendation, which was not accepted by the applicant at the time. I believe this one is at the municipal board as well, and I'm asking that the board remain consistent and maintain the recommended value that was chosen by the board at 27,628,000. It's located St. Anne's, just north of Aldgate. We saw a map of it earlier when we went over the last property where it was. So again, it's a cap rate issue, it's a indoor building.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Questions or same questions as you had last time, I guess?
I'd like to carry over my questions, then add a couple more, please.
Sure, add a couple.
So, the property is located at 1153 St. Angelo. Are you aware of any recent sales that have occurred in a proximity, let's say 6-minute drive to the property?
I guess I'd have to dig through your report.
I think you could just say a word and
Ward?
And 403 St. Angelo.
and 403 St. Anne's.
Yeah.
So 2 sales transacted that were very close to the property, correct? Do you agree with me?
Yeah.
Thank you. And you would agree that the actual year built or the effective year built, 2006, 2007, is almost identical towards year built, which is
That's
2006.
a good comparable.
And would you agree that on page 4, none of the rent comparables have transacted, at least to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, no.
So they're just NOI comparables or income?
That's just
comparables?
rent comparables.
Got it. And I'll carry over my questions from the last file. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Ron, questions?
I don't have any, Mr. Chairman.
Carrie?
I don't have anything.
Neither do I. I think we've asked them all to you already. On with your presentation, Omar.
Summary?
Yeah, summary, because you basically, you don't have to touch on all the other stuff, you've already touched on a lot of it. So
Correct.
Summarize if you would, if you may.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Winnipeg market, as I mentioned earlier, has been different to most markets in Canada, even North America, because of the rent control changes that have occurred. A lot of property owners have purchased properties knowing fully and being fully aware that the properties had low NOIs relative to the actual sale price that they paid. They were of the opinion that they will attain more NOI provided they refurbished and improved the properties and overcame the rent control schedule. As a result, I am of the opinion that a lot of the sales that were used in the city's model, because I can't say that for sure because I don't have the sales in front of me, but my opinion is that the sales that were used included sales that were artificially low. We don't know if fourplexes from 1931 are in the model. just because they're close to the subject property. We don't know if Ford was in the model. We don't know what was in the model. All we have from the city of Winnipeg is one page on cap rates. It was the same identical scenario last year. In my years working in property tax, I've never seen a cap rate be defended by a table and 5 paragraphs. 0 sales were provided by the assessor, as opposed to 13 sales that I provided. I think I provided a wide range of sales. Townhomes, high-rises, low-rises, old and new, post-facto and not, using 2 different methodologies. So we're looking at 13 sales versus 0. I think that it's up to the board to determine if the burden of proof on the assessor was fulfilled based on that one pager. I keep going back to that table and I look at Colliers, CBRE, and Stevenson. Apart from Stevenson, Colliers and CBRE don't have the number 5.00 in their range. It's not there. I strongly believe that 333 Ward Avenue is a very strong sale comparable due to its location, due to its age, and due to its proximity, sale date-wise, the valuation date. I think the property from the exterior looks very close to our property, and it seems to have a better interior finish. I'd like to remind, and by that I mean the fitness rooms and the amenities that I can speak to. I don't know about the finishing side. I'd like to remind the board of my opinion that properties that have a lot of units, I wouldn't say have a dearth of possible purchasers, but the market has kind of shown that. We're looking at one recent sale of a new property that was included today that is over 100 units, and that's 333 Ward. I am of the belief that the 2 high-rises included in the first analysis have artificially low cap rates. A high-rise property is harder to refurbish. It takes more time and more money, especially if you have 14 stories, 12 stories, as opposed to low-rises, as opposed to townhomes. I am of the belief that 403 St. Anne, or comparable number 3 in the first analysis, which is 6 minutes away from one of the 2 properties today, is also a very good comparable. It was able to overcome a rent schedule before the sale. And looking at sale number 4 too, that was a very good comparable because it was also refurbished, which we know as own apartments. Assuming that the purchaser of that property, as Altus mentioned, as the assessor mentioned, had big plans on refurbishing it even more, this hints at a possible low NOI in the first place, relative to the sale price. I'd like to bring up the fact, and I'm not sure if I highlighted that, the sale price per unit of 333 Ward Avenue is $174,757. Using a 5.25 cap rate, the request that I'm respectfully asking for today for 1153 Concordia is $174,051. And it's even lower for 1153 St. Anne's, which is $157,562 per unit. We looked at the NOI per unit, we looked at the sale price per unit, and Ward is the property that is very close to the subject properties themselves. I'd also argue that the fact that using a 5.25 cap, we were able to get Concordia close to the sale price per unit indicates that the assessment with 5 is already higher than it should be. A 5.25 cap rate will bring down the assessments to where I think they should be at around $174,000, especially for Concordia, and even lower for St. Anne's. And I think that concludes my summary. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do you want to summarize?
Yeah. These 2 properties are at the municipal board for 2018. By higher court, where the decision will roll into 2019. Last time, 5% cap was decided upon by this board, hearing the evidence. When it's presented at the municipal board they're gonna start at 5%. For the same reference here, same cap rate, sales are gonna be in question. The 333 Ward has been a pretty popular address last season. You guys have seen obviously stabilization, they stabilized at 5.04. Now, midway through the season, they started changing their tune, saying it was higher. However, never did they once produce a stabilized income and expense statement to back up where they made those changes. So the only mathematical evidence that the board heard about 333 Ward and its cap rate was 5.04. Now, we both agree that 333 Ward is the best and most comparable cap rate sale, and it's indicating a cap rate of 5. I'm asking the board to stay consistent with its decision last time. We've seen 333 Ward mathematically calculated at 5.04, and 5% is going to be the starting point for 2018, so I don't see why it should change.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your presentations. You have a great day.
Thank you.
You'll be hearing from us.